Y'all planning for this?
Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shilanski in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. And I guess I glossed over the fact that we charge for prospect appointments at our financial advisory firm, Shilanski and Associates, up in Anchorage, Alaska. So, I shared with you some of our prospecting processes as far as marketing, what's working, what's not working in today's environment. And mentioned on that we charge $497 for a prospect to have a 1-hour consultation with one of our financial advisors. And during that meeting, we do not deliver a full-blown financial plan. That is 1 hour of answering their questions and then pointing out anything that we see that warrants more attention. Here I was thinking that everybody in the financial advisory world knew that Shilanski and Associates charged for prospect meetings. But apparently not. So I got a lot of follow-up questions from team members as well as financial advisors out there saying, hey, I've been talking to my financial advisor about this. I really think we should be charging for our initial consultations. Or financial advisors saying, I got a lot of head trash about charging for initial consultations. How did you guys start this? When did you start it? What are the do's and don'ts? And how is it going over so far? I will slow down, take a step backwards, and let's dive into that conversation. And if you think that charging for financial advisory initial consultations is bogus and outrageous and outlandish to do, by the end of this episode, hear me out as to why. And hopefully I might give you a little bit more insight, and I might even change your mind. All right, so everyone knows Shilanski and Associates, RIA up in Anchorage, Alaska, was started in 1981 by Floyd and Rosa Shilanski. My baby brother, Micah Shilanski, and I are co-CEOs. We've been at the helm of the organization for the last decade or so. But the practice was always revolutionary. My dad got into the practice for one simple reason. Poverty sucked. Poverty sucked. We used to have in my home office growing up, there was a poster of an Englishman sipping a martini on top of a Rolls Royce, and it said poverty sucked. Now, if you walked by it, you might think like, oh, ha, 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 we're laughing at the aristocracies. But my parents bought that with money they didn't have to spend on artwork because nothing resonated more with them. Poverty did suck. They both came from situations where my mom had a little bit more affluence in her life. They were certainly middle Americans. My dad, dirt floor poor West Texas boy. And there was always food, but maybe not enough to get your fill. There was always shelter. There was always love, but there wasn't always a lot of money. And there wasn't always a lot of opportunity or education necessarily. He has picked cotton. He's worked pecan fields. He's been a grease monkey. He's a gas station attendant. He joined the Air Force. He worked 2 jobs while in the Air Force. When my mom was pregnant, she sewed the fly of Levi jeans in the worst job she said she ever had, and then did various things before working with the Bureau of Land Management before leaving because my dad just desperately needed help running the business he had just started. He's the very first entrepreneur in his line, as on my mom's side as well. And so when they started the practice, and I just look back now and shake my head because I don't know how most marriages survive, yet alone one that had so many trifles. And so when they started this, they got married at 18. My dad joined the Air Force. My mom, 3 years later, got pregnant with my first sister. They were dirt floor poor. I mean, poor. Like dinner was tortilla shells and on a good night, you had butter to go with them. And so as my dad went around to the different Air Force, he worked second jobs. My mom worked a couple of jobs, and they were just always scrimping and saving to come up to try to get themselves out of poverty. So when they saw this sign and it said poverty sucked, they said, yeah, it really, really does. And they're like, there has to be a way to get out of this situation. There has to be a way to get out of this circumstance. And my dad couldn't help but feeling that other people knew something about money he did not know, that there was some game being played and he didn't know what the game was or what the rules were. So he began to learn. And the more he learned, the more he became educated on the subject. Another time I'll share with you how our advisory firm started, because that is a great story. Best shared over some High West whiskey, but maybe I'll share it on a podcast with you. But they started the advisory practice, and they had the premise of learning about money and teaching others. And as they taught others, they'd go around to the community schools, they would go to all these different things, and they would constantly. Now, as the practice grew into the 90s and we started onboarding other advisors, all this kind of stuff, We've always been blessed with the mentality of believing in that life is full of abundance, that God gives us an abundance of opportunity, abundance of circumstances, abundance around us. And so we have been blessed in the sense that because of our discipline, because we market so well, and because we are constantly moving forward, we have a lot of prospects that come into our office. And in the 80s and 90s, especially when we were doing successful money management and financial strategies for successful retirement seminars, you would have people attend the class and then fill out an evaluation form. And hopefully they would want to check the box to come in for an appointment. If they didn't check the box, that just means that they forgot to check it. And you will check back in with them later to make sure that they came in for a prospect appointment. And so these prospect appointments are often called initial consultations. So it's your initial appointment with a financial advisor. Now, my dad was very early adopter of doing what was referred to as a data form. And a data form was, literally all your data on a form. And so it was this 12-page trifold that would come. We've modernized it to today, and it's a digital form, but it asks a massive intake on your situation, your circumstance. I mean, we go from everything from credit score to cash flow to investments, wills, trusts, insurance, everything. So all of your financial world in one place on one form. And then you'd fill out the data form, turn it in. This is when it was physical. Turn it in to the person that was working, normally me or our now integrator, Charnel, in the back of the room. And we'd schedule you with an appointment. If you filled out your data form, that means you were really serious about coming in for an appointment. To this day, that is also true. If you request a data form and you fill it out, that means you actually are serious about coming in for an appointment. And so as we did this in the 80s and 90s, we have this plethora and we'd be always tracking. So one of the things that's really great as my dad implemented early on, and my brother has just taken to a whole different level, is data analysis and tracking. And so we'd always want to know how many people needed to be in the seminar, how many people checked the box that they wanted an appointment, how many people filled out their evaluation form, how many people came in for their meeting, how many rescheduled or canceled. Those are two different definitions. Rescheduled just means, hey, today didn't work, another time will. Canceled means, yeah, I'm not interested, pass. So we track those. And then when the people would come in for the initial consultation, if they physically came in for the consultation, and then if they hired our firm or not. And so as we went through these numbers, I think my dad probably had his closing ratio is super high. It's stupid high. I think it's like 75%. It's really, really high. But back in the 80s and 90s, as he tracked all this, he's like, man, I just wish I could weed out the brain suckers. And so you'd get down with an appointment and it would be the person that didn't hire you that you wanted to be hired by. So I shared with you the ways that we onboard client in our practice is that they have to hit the 3 Ps. They got to be personable. You got to like them. They got to be productive. They have to listen to your advice and take it. And then they have to be profitable. You have a responsibility to remain in business for your own livelihood and for your clients who rely on your advice. So if they hit the 3 Ps and we wanted them to hire us and they didn't hire us, then, you'd come out of the meeting and be like, oh, it's a brain sucker. Oh, it's a vacuum cleaner. Oh, it was whatever terminology that was disparaging you wanted to cast upon this person because they rejected you, because they said no, they didn't see the value in hiring you. They didn't want to hire you for whatever reason. And so I think it was the late 90s. I don't know the exact date, but the late 90s, early 2000s, as we were going through this, we said, all right, well, what would make this different? What would make the experience where we weren't half-heartedly going into that meeting going, is this person going to hire us or not? And then you're so concentrated on the sell, that's all you're thinking about. And we said, what would make this where we were going into that meeting and we were so jazzed about it and we were absolutely pumped to deliver all the value. We didn't care if they were brain sucking. We wanted to dump as much information on them as possible, answer all their questions, leave that appointment and feel really good, feel a great sense of accomplishment. And so as we're brainstorming, Micah said, well, what if we charge for them? What if we charge for the prospect meeting? What if we charge for that initial consultation? And today, even in finance, that's pretty sacrilegious because most people give that initial consultation away for free. Even though I've never been to a medical examiner, I've never been to a psychologist, I've never been to a restaurant where they said, hey, the first one's free on us. I'm going to give you my best for an hour, but you don't owe me a thing thereafter. But in financial advisory, we think that prospect appointment should be free. We're like so deeply committed to the fact that we should not charge people for that initial consultation. That me even saying we're going to charge a fee for that is ludicrous to many of you out there listening, even though we wouldn't go see another professional and ask for their expertise for an hour and assume we did not have to pay them anything. We would never make that assumption about anyone else, but we constantly do it about us because we are so gosh darn hard on ourselves. We think we have so much head trash around our worth, our value, and what we deliver to people, and whether or not the work we do is hard. We have such head trash. I've never met a group of professionals more self-loathing than financial advisors who know damn well that they are providing value to their clients, but they don't feel confident enough to think that value has actual financial worth associated with it. You don't have to break your back laying bricks to be of value in this world. There are 3 F's. We talk about this. 3 F's: faith, fitness, and finance. You cannot outsource your faith. That is between you and your God, you and your maker, to be able to be spiritually comfortable and confident in your soul and in the pursuit of righteousness. That is your work, your path. Nobody else can do it. You can join a church every Sunday and not be a religious person. You have to do the work to walk in faith. You could never step foot in a church and be the most spiritual human being on the planet. You have to walk in your faith. Your fitness, I wish we could all eat cookies and get 6-packs, but that's not how it works. You got to put the work in. You want the gains, you've got to do the work for them. But finance, we do get to outsource. We don't have to become experts on. We could be really good in our particular career, and we could go hire somebody else that's really good in theirs to help us navigate all the finance. This is the greatest profession in the freaking world. We get to make multi-generational impact for people. We get to allow clients to feel that they're not going to outlive their retirement savings, that they get to retire early and help mom and dad in the latter stages of life. They get to put their kids through college. They get to know if they're terminal, their loved one is taken care of and they're not leaving them desolate. We have the greatest profession in the world. And yet we are constantly thinking we're not good enough. We are constantly thinking we have no value and that people shouldn't have to pay for us. And that these questions are easy. They're easy because we've learned them. Because anyone starting out brand new in financial planning knows damn well they're not easy. Knows that a lot of knowledge that is between most financial advisors' ears that have been in business for more than 10 years is from the school of good old-fashioned hard freaking knocks. It's about flying on red eyes on airlines that you can't afford a ticket on, to go to a conference that you're hoping that they serve meals because you didn't have enough money for your ticket to get in the first place. It's about networking with people and you not knowing what to say or what to ask of them and hoping that they glean a little light on you. It's about sitting in front of prospects and pitching the wrong thing over and over again until you dial it in and you have the right thing to say to them, until you know all of the things that you should and shouldn't promise and shouldn't offer. And we are so detrimental to our own selves in this industry by thinking that the work we do is not good enough to receive money from. It's a shame. It's really, really unfortunate. So when we talked about doing the prospect meetings, we said, you know what? If we were earning money off of them, if we were getting hired right off the get-go, we would feel a sense of responsibility to go in there and deliver massive value. Now, could we feel a sense of responsibility of providing that value whether or not they paid? Sure. But then that violates one of our rules that we have to be profitable. We have to stay in business. The person working at my front desk, the person in the back helping transfer assets, they're not doing this because they believe in some philanthropic pursuit. They're doing this because they have a mortgage. They're doing this because they have kids at home they have to feed. And it is my responsibility as a business owner to stay in business. That is a number one responsibility. And so if I go into these meetings and I am feeling like I'm going to deliver so much value, and the advisors in our office are going to deliver so much value to these individuals because they paid a fee, then that's just good business planning. So when we first started this, we charged, pretty insignificant. I think we toiled around with $47, but it was too low. And even at the time, even in the early 2000s, because it could be dismissive. Kind of like if you go to a restaurant and they charge you a $25 a head fee for holding the reservation. It's enough to where you don't want to cancel it if you don't have to, but not so much that you wouldn't cancel it if you wanted to. So we kind of escalated up from there. I think it went to $97 next. And then we landed on, I think, $197. And then today we're at $497. And that is because the value of what we're providing in those meetings is expertise. And if we don't answer all of your questions, if we don't provide you with value, guess what? We don't charge the fee. That's how it works. And so I feel absolutely confident with our, Victoria does all of our prospecting in the office. And as a relationship manager, she talks to prospects, half a dozen times before we ever meet with them. So they hit the top of our funnel, they get familiar with our brand, then they maybe get some educational information. They've seen us on YouTube, they've gone through some learning management systems, whatever that is, they're getting more acclimated. Maybe they've attended a seminar with who we are and what we have to offer. And then that third sort of stage is them coming in for a one-on-one consultation. So now it's this broad advice that you've offered, but how does that broad advice now apply to me and my specific scenario? And so we give those clients homework ahead of time. And sometimes just even going through the exercise of having to gather all of that information and put it down. I mean, we tell clients our prospects all the time, hey, we're going to give you a laborious amount of information that we want you to fill out ahead of time before your meeting. We've done this so that you can get the most value out of your time spent with your financial advisor. Please don't open this the night before your meeting and panic. It is going to take you probably 10 to 20 hours to fill all of this out. And so clients go through, our prospects go through, and they start gathering all the information. They start putting it down. And one of the very first things that they say to us was, that was a great exercise. I've never done something like that in my life. Because oftentimes we only look at our insurance when it's up for when we're shopping it. When we're looking to make sure our coverage, we don't actually go through and see what we have in place. In fact, most people don't know that your car insurance also can have a life insurance benefit attached to it. That's not separate life insurance. It's part of your property and casualty. So, we got to go through all of these different scenarios to help them pull it all together and genuinely create that financial plan. Now, during that consultation, though, we're not designing a plan. We're doing what's referred to as a discovery. And in that discovery, we're going to pull out kind of like an internal memo to record, and it's going to be called Discovery. And it's going to list all 5 areas of the financial plan. And we're going to go through at a very high level, and we're going to look over the client's information, and we're going to pull out the questions that they had. And then we're going to also flag areas that we see as inconsistencies, inaccuracies. And sometimes this happens too. Sometimes people are underinsured, but my gosh, sometimes people are overinsured. They have no need for it. They've got to do a whole bunch of whole life because somebody from church or Rotary or whatever sold it to them. And they're just overinsured, and we need to dial that back. So we'll pull out all the things that we see without first building the plan. And then when we go into that meeting, and here's what most people miss, and this is such a shame. Most people miss that the meeting is not about how brilliant you are as a financial advisor. The meeting is about the prospect. The meeting is about answering their questions. It's about addressing their concerns. It's about going through their questions. That meeting has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So when we start off our meetings, we ask ahead of time, our relationship manager will grab the questions and they'll say, hey, listen, can you walk me through your questions? Go through that. And then they'll jot them all down for the financial advisor. Relationship managers at Shilanski and Associates, RRA up in Anchorage, Alaska, do not provide financial advice. They manage the relationship with the client. They do not provide financial advice. That is the sole responsibility of the financial advisor. But they will manage gathering those questions for the financial advisor ahead of time. And we did this probably 5 or 6 years ago, started asking clients during Surge what their questions were ahead of time. How stupid simple is that? Hey, your appointment with your financial advisor is coming up. Do you have any questions? Yes, I've got these dozen questions. Great. Wouldn't you love to see those before your client meeting so you were actually prepared? Have you ever thought of the novel idea of just asking in advance? Whoever's preparing your appointment, have them gather those questions. Those questions get typed verbatim and they go into the appointment slot for that financial advisor, so that when we're doing our appointment prep the week before, we're reviewing the client questions, and then we go into that meeting leading with their questions. We go through them one by one. Hey, you asked this. I want to make sure I answer it for you. Next question. I see that you asked this. Here's this answer for it. If we don't have the answer, we do something else super novel. We tell them, I don't know. Can I get back to you? And it goes over brilliant. I tell all the new advisors that start with us, listen, I've never sat with somebody in a conference room and said, you know what? I'm not sure on my answer on that just yet. Can I have a little time to look up some more information? And then pick up their stuff, throw it at the door, storm outside and say, I'm never coming back. That is not a scenario. That does not happen. It has never once happened in the 40 plus years that we have been in business. You know what people say when you say, I don't know, can I get back to you? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Great. I'd appreciate it. That's what people say. So one of the brilliant things about financial planning is it's not life and death. It's not like if somebody's got their hands inside of our organs and they have to know the answer right then and there or we die. We get to say, can I get back to you? And then go look up information, go resource, go talk to other people, go figure out what you need to figure out and get back to the client. That's it. That's all that happens. Nobody dies. I'm often asked, do we give the clients the discovery? No, I don't. Why? I also don't give them our internal memos. Those are our notes. Clients aren't entitled to client files. They're entitled to their information back. And so I don't give them that discovery. That's just for our notes and our working arrangement together. We go through that meeting. And then one of the things I shared with you is I always ask what else. So I'll get through the end of the questions and I'll say, what else? And then I say, what else? I'm mentally aware that I want to say what else 3 times, because by that 3rd time, now I've really answered all of their questions. In the medical world, they call this the doorknob rule. So as soon as the doctor touches the doorknob, all of a sudden the patient has a litany of questions. So I like to end my meetings with that. And I share with people, I always say as I'm leaving, I say, hey, listen, we went through a lot of information together. And if we were in a medical office, they would call this the doorknob rule. The second the doctor touches the doorknob, boom, all the questions pop back up. Our doorknobs at Shilanski and Associates are not magical, but our parking lot is. And so the second that your feet touch that pavement, you're going to think of all of the questions we didn't address here today in the meeting. When those come up, here's how to email our office and here's how we'll go about addressing those. So I take the concern for the fact that they have a limited time with the financial advisor off of the table and reassure them that they have unlimited access to our company and we're going to answer all of those. Now, with prospects, that time is limited to that hour, but if we didn't address some of their questions, not questions that pop up 3 months from now, but a question that maybe you didn't get a chance to ask in that meeting, or they just adjourned and they said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask you about my federal employee health benefits, or I forgot to ask you about my Social Security. We'll do one of those. We won't do plethoras of those. So if that person 2 or 3 weeks after the meeting has decided not to hire our firm, but they continually email in and ask questions, nope, we're not doing that. Because now you're working for free. And if you're going to do it for free for them, why aren't you doing it free for everyone else? Because you owe responsibility to the people that did decide to hire you, that did decide to exchange their money for your value, to be charging everyone fairly across the board. So we're big, ardent believers in that. And we can't exasperate that subject enough, talking about the fairness of financial planning and how we have to be less, in my opinion, socialist about it, or socialist entirely. I don't care if you tend to be more socialist. I don't care if you tend to be more capitalist, but be true to whatever you are deciding to be. Walk in that faith. Do not be hypocritical to what you are espousing. In our office, we do the no sell sell. What does that mean? That means we don't push to hire us. We don't say, if you work with us, when you work with us. We don't do seed planting like that. What we will sometimes occasionally do is say, well, most of our clients do X, Y, and Z. Or when we meet with our clients, they do X, Y, and Z. We do the no sell sell for a reason. It works. It works really successfully for us. If we go into that meeting and we think we're pitching, most people, their closing ratio just plummets. You got to be really good to know how to pitch without pitching. And so we will do the no sell sell. We are there for our number one reason is deliver massive value to the person sitting across from us. And if we focus and concentrate on that and we do it correctly, by the end of the meeting, they're saying to us, how do we continue to work with you? How do I go? Where do I go from here? How do I follow up? Can you help me with this? When I retire, can I transfer my accounts to you? They're asking us those questions. We're not asking them. That's how we know we've done it successfully. We do the sleep on it rule. So this comes out of Jarvis Financial. He doesn't get contracts signed the same day, same meeting. We say, you know what? We've talked a lot about big topics here. I only want to work with people that are really productive and really serious about achieving those. So I want you to go home and sleep on it. I want you to think on it. I want you guys to have a conversation without me in the room. I could turn my back if that makes it easier, but sometimes people feel awkward. And then let us know. Our team is going to follow up with you in 1 week. You're going to let us know how you want to proceed. If you want to proceed, they'll collect payment. We do go over fees of what that would look like. And then also they're going to get the contract signed to engage our firm. We don't go over the contracts. We go over the fees. We do not go over the contract in the meeting necessarily. The relationship manager goes ahead and takes that. We make sure they have a written copy of it. We make sure that they have time to sleep on it and think about that contract, think about that engagement before they start working with our firm. Because we practice surge, one of the things that we'll do is we'll front end load our prospect meetings whenever possible. What that means is if my advisors are meeting with prospects March and April, then the beginning part of March, we want to pack with prospects so that we have buffer days at the end of April. If we have a prospect that needs to come back in, if we have to do a second appointment to get started on the financial planning. And that's worked out really, really successful for us. So no, the client does not get a copy of the discoverable. They don't get a written financial plan for $500. They bought 1 hour of time to get their questions answered. When we do that follow-up call, our relationship manager will ask, did you find your meeting of value? And if the answer is yes, then we'd go ahead and charge the $497. If the answer is no, for any reason whatsoever, they get 2 options. They can reschedule with a different advisor in our office. They can come in for a second consultation, or we refund the fee. That's it. That's all that happens. And we part ways as friends in that situation because we want to make sure that we're always providing value. Thankfully, refunding does not happen often with us because we really are focused on that value aspect of it. Floyd and I did refund someone, jumped on a call with him, and they were remote, and they had gone through the prospect process. They had uploaded everything, and they were remote village in Alaska. And we get on the call and, are doing the how do you do's. This person is like monosyllabic, her and her husband. And so Floyd said, well, how can I help you? And she said, well, I uploaded all the information. How can you help me? And then every time we try to ask her a question, it was yes, no, the entire time. I just wouldn't give an inch, would not budge, would not give an inch. And we just ended the call with Floyd looking at me saying, how do you think that went? And I was like, I don't think we helped that person. Like, I don't understand why they called us. Like, we didn't knock on their door. They knocked on ours. And so sure enough, Floyd was like, yeah, do not, reached out to the relationship manager, said, we did not provide any value here. Please don't charge for this appointment because I'm not sure what this person wanted, why they even called us if they didn't want to at least participate a little in the dialogue. That doesn't happen. It's infrequently. We do have to disclose that we charge for these meetings on side of our ADV. So we work with our compliance officer on that. We have a 1-page contract for the initial consultation fees. All prospects sign that ahead of time. And that's how they get on our schedule, is they have to sign the agreement in order to get on our calendar. Now, why did we start doing this? 1, we wanted to get rid of the brain sucking and the vacuum cleaners. 2, we wanted to feel good about delivering as much value as possible because we knew there was an exchange happening between us. They're getting what they paid for. They paid for our knowledge and expertise. So why wouldn't we deliver that? And then 3, it really took our reschedules and no-shows down to nil. I mean, they're not null. I mean, it's not 0, but man, it's really, really close. People seldom times reschedule or cancel with our firm because they've already made that exchange. They already know the cost of the appointment. And then also implementing Surge probably really help with that as well, because it's not like you can call and get in tomorrow. Sometimes there is a 6 to 3 month wait, and that is designed intentional because we want people that are really serious about engaging in financial planning. And when things are instantaneously available, they make us feel that there is more abundance and less scarcity. And so we're not willing to engage as readily. So those are the reasons that we started as an RIA charging for prospect appointments. How does it go over? Smashing. Every now and then you're going to get somebody that thinks the price is outrageous and says, I can't believe you're charging. You'll be surprised that most of the time it's other financial advisors saying that and not actually prospects saying it. Because most prospects think you do have to pay for goods and services. Guess what? Because we live in a society in which you pay for goods and services. People are not unfamiliar with this concept. It's not brand new information that you have to pay somebody for their advice, that you have to pay somebody for their service. We just treat it like it is in financial planning. I don't even understand it. I cannot fathom it. And ever go to an attorney and they say, hey, first hour's on me. I'm going to give you all this advice, but you don't have to work with me and I'm not going to charge you anything. No, the second you pulled in that parking lot, that clock starts. And, maybe you don't want to design yourself like an attorney, but you don't have to bill by the hour. You could just bill for the experience. We have our appointments are normally 45 minutes. A lot of times on prospects, they'll go an hour. We give ourselves most of the time an hour to an hour and a half. But after an hour of sitting down with a financial advisor, you've gone through so much information that the prospect's eyes begin to gloss over, and you don't want to lose that person. You want to be effective, not intimidating. And so we'll wrap it up about that 45-minute mark, which really works for most people's bandwidth of how they retain and gain information. We'll leave that appointment on a high note. Then we'll do the follow-up, and then we'll see if they want to become clients or not. And it's really just that simple. People that don't want to have to pay the fee, don't pay it. Now, here's where this goes sideways or wrong. This goes sideways or wrong because Shilanski and Associates, as you guys already know, we are an enterprise office. And what that means is that we have multiple financial advisors. And with the, half a dozen financial advisors so that we have, here's where it can go sideways, is if nobody's charging the fee or if everyone is waiving the fee. And so we've taken that right out of the advisor's hands and we give it over to the relationship manager. And the reason I don't oftentimes waive a fee is because I don't want to have to make somebody else responsible for collecting a fee. I don't have the stomach to collect myself. And so we are really disciplined about this. We give each financial advisor a handful, and literally it means 5 exemptions a year. So if you have, the son or daughter of your top client, you don't want to charge them $497 to come in, that's no problem. That's one of your exemptions. You get 5 in a calendar year. On that 6th one, you are now paying the $497 it would have cost for that prospect to come in. That is a personal contribution you are making to the firm for that prospect of that 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 20th person that you want in. You're paying for it because this is about integrity. And I cannot ask our team of relationship managers to charge people you're not willing to charge yourselves, because then they don't understand the difference between why some people have to pay and why some people don't have to pay. So I take it right off of the table. Now, if this made you uncomfortable, good. That's where growth happens. Get uncomfortable. Start this up. Start it wherever you feel is a good exchange for your hourly rate. Whatever you feel your hourly rate is worth, that's what you charge an hour. And that right there in itself is a great conversation for you to have with you. Because if you think you're only worth $40, go charge the rest of your clients $40. If you think you're worth $500, great. Now you know you're worth $500 an hour. But whatever it is, it's got to be consistent across the board. And you got to approach this with integrity and discipline. And especially because if you, like where I live in a small town state, then everyone's going to talk. So if you charge Bob and Sue $40, but you charge Tina and Jeff $500, they're going to want to know why. So we like to have consistency. There's not a multitude of different fees. There's one consistent fee for initial consultations. There's a variance between other advisors and Shilanski's. That's it. That's it in our practice. That is our way of helping these other advisors grow their book of business by putting them in a little less price point. TPR Nation, it was super fun to answer questions like this. If you're a team member or financial advisor and you've got other questions about saying, whoa, how did this work? Back up, Jamie. One more minute. I got to get a little more information. then email us at lifestyle@theperfectra.com. That really, really helps us understand the type of content that you have questions around. We do a lot of these episodes based on what you, as our audience, wants to hear. So if you're a team member or a financial advisor and you want more information, email us at lifestyle@theperfectra.com. Mostly on the social media channels, we are on LinkedIn. By design, I do not have social media myself, but Matthew Jarvis is always out there. You can hit up his page. He loves it when people mention me on his page more than anything. And you could also hit us on the perfectra.com website and reach out to us in that way. And of course, you need to drop down and give us 5 stars. 5 stars helps the algorithms promote this podcast so that other people can listen to content just like this. That's how it works. We got to trick the computers. I need you to make sure you give us 5 stars so that way other advisors are aware of conversations that are happening in the industry that are around this. There's not enough dialogue around how to run your practice as a financial advisor and how you run it as a business owner in today's world. Now, you know we are 100% all about action items. I told you action item number 1, drop down and give us 5 stars. Super, super appreciative. Or reach out to us on social media, LinkedIn, or email us at lifestyle@theperfectra.com. Action item number 2, what's your hourly rate? What are you willing not to tell people when you sit at a bar with them what you're worth, but what are you actually willing to charge a prospect to come in and meet with you on an hourly basis? If you don't know that, go back and look. If you don't know how to calculate that, then email us at lifestyle@theperfectra.com. We've got a couple different memberships that'll walk you through as a business owner exactly how you discern that type of information, understanding your EBOC, understanding your hourly rate, understanding all of those different data technical points that you need to know in your advisory firm. Whatever you charge, make sure that is consistent across the board. And then develop a prospect process so you know what you're giving and what you're not giving for that cost. That'll make things really, really consistent across the board. And especially if you have relationship managers that are assessing these fees on your behalf, your integrity here counts more than anything. Everything we do matters. Everything we do counts. TPR Nation, this has been an episode of Worlds to Conquer. I am Jamie Shilanski. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Before we go, something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA, the perfect